Among the scientific hypotheses regarding the existence of extraterrestrial life, perhaps the ancient astronaut theory always receives the most attention. As we continue to uncover more traces of ancient civilizations, there is increasing reason to believe that hypothesis. We realize that feelings for outsiders, lovers, do not persist throughout the process of a person's formation and development. But if that were true, why do we let those uninvited guests freely come and go in our home without a word of protest? We are unaware of their existence, or perhaps we are not yet capable of confronting them. Or sometimes we are forced to turn a blind eye to those entities. Many have hypothesized about the existence of agreements between humans and extraterrestrial forces. They will come here, take what they need, and in return, we will gain knowledge, technology, and above all, safety for our entire species. The evidence for these diplomatic exchanges is quite clearly demonstrated in records of objects identified as tribute items. Appearing throughout the various historical periods of Chinese civilization, the agreements between humans and extraterrestrials are the very secret we will uncover together today. Wishing you 30 minutes of enjoyable viewing with the video, Ancient China, a history of cosmic diplomacy through the dynasties. Thank you to Helios, the handmade silver jewelry brand dedicated to men, for accompanying CD team. Eastern culture is an endless source of inspiration for the unique collections at Helios. The most remarkable is undoubtedly the Lodes collection, where the traditional lotus motif is boldly stylized with geometric sharpness, a distinctive signature that defines the brand's unique identity. Discover and acquire exquisite apples, crafted by the skilled hands of Vietnamese artisans, at this enchanting exhibition space. You are looking at 3 binary star systems. The most astonishing archaeological discovery of the century was unearthed in China in the late 1920s. It covers an area of approximately 12 square kilometers and is located in the city of Guanghan, in China's present-day Sichuan province. Although discovered early, the excavation of these 3 double tombs proceeded rather slowly. It was not until 1934 that the first survey team arrived and documented their valuable findings. Near the relic site, they discovered 3 small mounds shaped like stars, hence naming this place Sangxingdui. Although this excavation uncovered additional artifacts such as bronze objects, jade, pottery, and stone tools. However, fundamentally, these are not particularly important or groundbreaking artifacts. Due to the complex political situation at the time, they were forced to abruptly end their expedition. The relic site consequently faded into obscurity. It was not until 1986 that the TO map once again captured the attention of the academic community. During that year's expedition, everyone was utterly astonished to discover thousands of valuable artifacts. The discovery of the Sangxingdui archaeological site has transformed the scientific community's understanding of ancient Chinese civilization. However, greatness and grandeur are not the topics we will discuss today. According to the carbon isotope dating method, previously unknown artifacts have been excavated at the Sangxingdui archaeological site, dating back to around 1250 BC. This indicates that since ancient times, a brilliant civilization once flourished here. With a relatively advanced level of science and technology, completely different from what we currently imagine. Look here, this animal was nearly 4 meters tall and was discovered during the 1986 excavation. With its exquisite design, the bronze tree leaves an incredibly profound impression on anyone fortunate enough to behold it firsthand. It grew a total of 9 branches, each with a flower and a bird perched at its tip. Strangely enough, the shape of this object is identical to the image of the Fusang divine tree as described in the Classic of Mountains and Seas. If you didn't know, the Classic of Mountains and Seas is an ancient Chinese text, a comprehensive collection of records on geography, mythology, and mystical creatures. The appearance of the Fusang tree has led people to question, could the records in the Classic of Mountains and Seas be more than just fiction? And from this point, people began to question the connection between the 3 crystals and another advanced alien civilization. Let us analyze another piece of evidence to further support the aforementioned suspicion. This bronze statue is also a famous artifact, discovered right at the archaeological site. Anyone can easily see that what is described here bears no resemblance to a human being. Here, we have an elongated cylindrical head, unusually large eyes relative to the facial proportions, and sharp, backward curving hands that extend past the nape of the neck. It seems the ancients were attempting to describe a particular species, or at the very least, a deity from their own belief system. The reason is, before the twin star system was discovered, similar hypotheses had been proposed for civilizations like Akkad, Maya, or the Sumerian Empire. The gods in those cultures are also considered to have originated from the cosmos, coming to support and aid humanity. It is possible that this also occurred in the civilization of the binary star system. Initially, the faint connection to extraterrestrials went entirely unnoticed. However, everything completely changed following a shocking discovery in June 2022. While cleaning excavation pit number 7 at the Sangxingdui relic site, archaeologists made a surprising discovery: a cultural artifact with an extremely unusual shape. This cultural relic is primarily made of bronze, with an overall shape resembling a turtle's shell, covered in a web-like pattern of veins, exuding an enigmatic aura. Conducting further research into the production process, experts utilized X-ray imaging for inspection. The results left everyone utterly astonished. They discovered that in fact, it showed signs of having been welded, with seams so refined they were nearly imperceptible. The earliest patent for welding technology belongs to the method of arc welding using a carbon electrode, granted in Britain in 1885. However, this discovery at the Dual Ruins has directly pushed the history of welding technology formation back by more than 2,000 years into the past. That is to say, as early as 4,000 years ago, the ancient Chinese had already mastered an extremely sophisticated welding technique, one that could even surpass the technological level of the modern era. How did the pair of star-crossed lovers create it? Beyond that stopping point, through research, experts have also discovered that newly excavated bronze artifacts here contain the element phosphorus. If someone has a bit of knowledge about chemistry, they will know that phosphorus is a non-metallic element. It not only accelerates the liquefaction rate of copper but also slows down the solidification process when copper is in its molten state. From that point on, casting complex shapes became easier and more convenient. However, phosphorus is recorded as having been first discovered in 1669. So how did the ancient Chinese extract phosphorus over 4,000 years ago? They learned from the very beginning about respect and its importance. Most people are already somewhat convinced of this. Come to think of it, could it be that this advanced civilization had already made contact with extraterrestrial beings in the past? And when we piece together the archaeological evidence, we will have a story that aligns relatively well with the hypothesis presented at the beginning of the video. First of all, since ancient times, aliens have set foot on Earth. There, amidst the ruins, they searched for something. Here, they encountered the indigenous people, inhabitants of a civilization that was still very rudimentary and primitive at the time. Nevertheless, it is that primitive and rudimentary civilization that possesses what they need. And so, an exchange took place. The extinct civilization imparted a great deal of advanced scientific knowledge to them. From that point, that civilization far surpassed all other contemporary civilizations. In exchange for that, the aliens also want us to give them something. What do they expect from us? A primitive civilization, still at a rudimentary stage of development, has nothing with which to trade with a species advanced enough to travel through space. Humanity is the answer. That's right, there is one thing that aliens absolutely cannot find anywhere else but on Earth. They need individuals who meet their specific standards to serve their own purposes. We, however reluctantly, must accept that truth. If you skillfully negotiate with them in a cordial manner, this will certainly be a mutually beneficial agreement. Otherwise, things might have gotten much worse. Throughout history, these exchanges have always taken place, and the evidence for this is abundantly clear. Head wash service with 10 steps, flat rate only 120K per week. I will tell you about the next agreement, which is likely to be established during the reign of the most famous emperor in Chinese history, the new Qin Shi Huang. Shi Yi Ji. In this book, chapter 41 contains a detail mentioning an encounter between aliens and the first emperor of Qin. The content of the passage is presented below. During the reign of Qin Shi Huang, there was a most peculiar tribe of people who frequently came and went. They possess a physique that is remarkably taller and larger than that of ordinary people. Their bodies were covered with something resembling feathers. These individuals can easily enter and exit the country's territory without encountering any obstacles. In the darkness, they possessed a strange treasure that could emit its own light without the need for fire. The newly ascended retired emperor has always remained enigmatic and inscrutable towards this ethnic group. Even the emperor regarded them as family. When asked who that person was, the new emperor Qin Shi Huang replied with just a single sentence. That is the gods. Based on the two short excerpts, it can be seen that Qin Shi Huang was connected to aliens. Scientists who adhere to the hypothetical school of thought believe that all assumptions can be proven when sufficient empirical evidence is available. That evidence will surely be found at the Great Wall of China. We probably don't need to introduce the Great Wall at length, as this monument is already far too famous. A magnificent structure, stretching for tens of thousands of kilometers, requiring an extremely sophisticated level of construction engineering. And to clearly understand the meteorological and geological characteristics of each region it passes through. With rudimentary technology, limited manpower, and a reverent ideal, how could they have completed such a monumental structure? It is difficult to find a more convincing reason than that it was formed precisely thanks to the active support of that alien tribe. Some scientists still cannot accept this hypothesis because, in their view, it is too far-fetched. Relying solely on a few faint and unclear ancient inscriptions is not sufficiently convincing. Perhaps we still need to search for more clues. Explore inside the emperor. In 1965, during the excavation of an ancient tomb in China, the country's archaeologists discovered an extremely special sword. When the layer of dust was wiped away, an inscription appeared on the blade. This is the very sword once wielded by King Gujian of Yu. King Gujian of Yu was the ruler of the state of Yu, who lived around 496 BC. He is considered one of the 5 hegemons of the late spring and autumn period in Chinese history. After excavating this precious sword, Chinese archaeologists at the time determined it to be approximately over 2,000 years old. Though it had lain buried deep underground for over 2,000 years, the sword's blade remained gleaming and showed no signs of rust. Not only that, but after being cleaned, its color retains its perfect appearance without any fading. What has allowed it to remain so perfectly intact for thousands of years? The reason Gujian's sword remained completely unscathed is that its surface was coated with a layer of chromium. Today, chrome is primarily used to enhance corrosion resistance and polish surfaces. However, this metal is very hard, making it difficult to machine. Furthermore, chromium's melting point also reaches 1907 degrees Celsius. It was not until the 20th century that humans learned to apply chromium in plating other metals to enhance their corrosion resistance. Therefore, around 2,000 years ago, the method of chrome plating was completely impossible to carry out. If this method is so blatantly obvious, then who can truly claim to be its owner? Not stopping there, in 1994, Chinese archaeologists excavated another section of the Qin Shi Huang Mausoleum, located on the northern slope of Mount Li in Lintong County, Shaanxi Province. When excavating the second lake, a series of bronze swords crafted specifically for the tomb were discovered. All the swords are 86 centimeters long and to this day maintain a remarkable sharpness. When measurements were taken, the results showed that the sword's blade had a surface area as small as a single human hair. Like Gujian's sword, though buried underground for nearly 2,000 years. But when the outer layer of mud was wiped away, they shone as brightly as new. Scientists believe that if ancient technology had truly advanced to such a level, it would be truly astonishing. Why are they gradually fading away over time? Could it be that there exists a profound connection between the new first secretary and extraterrestrial beings? And they were the ones who supported this emperor in creating 102 masterpieces in human history. In my opinion, the answer is quite clear. Another exchange took place, identical to the dawn of the previous civilization. The profession may seem unfamiliar, yet it holds a strangely captivating allure, reminding us to turn towards the true values of life. And made a covenant with the new king of the world at that time, the first emperor of Qin. For the emperor shall possess all under heaven, along with countless advanced technologies. To protect the land of Mr. Veng Man and Feng Vin. In return, those guests demanded people, and they demanded them in great numbers. But why would aliens need us humans? So what is the evidence for that? Perhaps you've heard of the legend surrounding the mysterious burial of Emperor Qin Shi Huang. Let us review the construction process of his mausoleum, a process with many questionable aspects. The construction process from commencement to completion lasted 38 years. According to one chronicle, the number of participants mobilized reached up to 700,000. If a healthy man starts building his tomb at the age of 20. When the mausoleum was completed, he had already turned 60. In ancient times, with a low average life expectancy, very few people lived to the age of 60. Therefore, it is unlikely that one person would be involved throughout the entire process from start to finish. Builders from all regions will take turns coming to participate in the construction of the mausoleum. Most of them belong to a social class that was looked down upon. Primarily prisoners, prisoners of war, or peasants who had lost their farmland. For those lonely individuals without any relatives or loved ones, if they were to pass away, there would be no one to know or care. This is certainly the right candidate to bring to the negotiating table. The mausoleum of Qin Shi Huang had all the workers involved in its construction executed, even those who knew its precise location. So if they were truly eliminated, where are those hundreds of thousands of bodies now? Concealing the number of fatalities is something completely impossible to achieve. Their sentences were bought and sold, then taken away by aliens, which only added fuel to the rumors. Perhaps in the earliest stages, records of extraterrestrials were quite scarce. But as time went on, people increasingly witnessed the ever more frequent appearance of strange objects in China's skies. After the reign of the new emperor, aliens were no longer restricted from appearing as they had been before. Their images were not only preserved within the imperial court but were also documented by the common people themselves. We can find that in the poetry of Su Dongpo, a renowned official and preeminent poet of the Song dynasty. Not to mention, one day while on a boat to Hangzhou to assume his post, Su Dongpo was suddenly awakened at 2 in the morning. In the middle of the river, Hong Vok was also taken by surprise when a fireball suddenly appeared, blazing brightly. That strange light flickered and spread, reaching even the mountaintops, startling the birds into a panicked frenzy. A visit to Kim Sun Temple. To help you better visualize, I would like to translate the excerpt according to my personal understanding as follows. As dusk fell, the moonlight shone down upon the river's surface. By the second watch, the moon had set, and the sky was pitch black. The firelight in the middle of the river blazed brightly like a great torch. On the mountain, the sudden startled cry of a kite bird made one imagine someone turning back, evoking a faint, lingering sorrow. It only deepened the skepticism toward the strange tales often passed down among people. Indeed, hastily concluding that it's aliens based solely on a strange light is far too premature. However, this is not the only evidence of the appearance of visitors from the cosmos during the Song dynasty. At that time, the Devil's Circle hat case was the incident that most strongly fueled suspicions about the appearance of an unidentified object from the sky. The demon with the bamboo hat appeared in Luoyang, also known as the Western capital. In the report submitted to the imperial court, the crucial details of the case were presented in such a way that no one could help but feel suspicious. The hat-brim-shaped monster often flies into people's homes at night to harm and kidnap them. The people of Luoyang, spurred by the rumors, would bolt their doors as soon as dusk fell. Only a few brave individuals dare to form their own groups to hunt multiple monsters. Despite the report's extremely grave nature, the official in charge of Luoyang City still. The Western capital government has decided not to conduct a thorough investigation into the rumors regarding the ghost with the hat. He himself did not trust Mak Kai. The provincial magistrate believed that given some time, the rumors would naturally fade away on their own. Completely contrary to initial predictions, the rumor not only failed to die down but spread even further, eventually reaching the imperial court at Fuk Haifong. Upon receiving the news, Emperor Zhenzong of the Song dynasty immediately dispatched an envoy to Luoyang to investigate the matter. However, on the other hand, his very strange actions only served to deepen people's confusion about the matter. According to historical records, Emperor Zhenzong of Song was a ruler who greatly enjoyed erecting altars to worship heaven, praying for and welcoming the appearance of auspicious signs. Upon hearing the rumors about the conical hat demon, the first thing he did was immediately set up an altar to pray for safety. The actions of that country's leader are tantamount to an admission that the boogeyman is real. Kaifeng's prosperous capital quickly fell into ruin. People locked their doors. Some who had gloves gathered together, arming themselves for self-defense. Moreover, rumors and fears had even infiltrated the barracks of the Imperial Guard. At this point, Song Zhenzong was forced to seriously confront and address this issue. First, he issued an absolute ban on the spread of rumors in any form. Anyone who uncovers the source of the rumors in the capital will be handsomely rewarded. At the same time, the king ordered the severe punishment of those spreading malicious rumors with the harshest penalties. Many people were beheaded or exiled for their involvement in the affair. The rumors did not stop at Kaifeng but quickly spread to Yingtian Prefecture as well. As soon as the rumors reached Yingtian City, the city lord immediately ordered the arrest of those who deliberately spread false information, causing public unrest. The decisive act of discarding that shirt prevented the rumor from spreading further. What a coincidence, right after the Devil's Circle case concluded. At that very time, many local regions of the Song dynasty also recorded the appearance of a comet. In conclusion, the Kai Van Mu case has clarified nearly all the previously vague speculations about aliens coming to Earth and conducting exchanges. After thousands of years, our visitors from the cosmos are finally stopping by more often. They directly apprehended the targets within their sights and took them away, with no need to wait for their leader to come out and negotiate. We were inherently incapable of resisting their power, a fact clearly reflected in the attitude of both the royal court and the subordinate officials. Their actions were not intended to protect the people, but were essentially an attempt to conceal and deny the existence of the demon Van Mu. Perhaps aliens are no longer as friendly as they used to be. Perhaps these guests need to meet more people to discuss business matters. When diplomatic partners cannot sufficiently meet necessary demands, they are compelled to take proactive action to secure what they desire. Later on, the division was further strengthened by its presence during various periods. After the Song dynasty, guests had almost ceased to fear the gaze of humans. The fifth sci-fi agency. It describes in detail how aliens abduct humans and use them as research subjects. Cactin. Its content can be summarized as follows. In the 7th year of Jiajing, which is 1528, on the 3rd day of the 5th month, a guest star appeared. The guest star flew from the southeast to the northwest, shining brilliantly and perfectly round like a giant wheel. It flew without any predictable pattern, sometimes soaring high, other times dipping low, at times darting away swiftly, and then suddenly stopping midair. Thousands of people witnessed this together. On the 3rd night, it appeared again. The creature flew from the northwest toward Luk Dao village in the deep Tang Mountains, then landed gently behind the mountain peak. In the village, there was a stonemason named Hua Gun. One time, while he was chiseling stone at the foot of the mountain, he suddenly saw a strange light in the sky and immediately stepped out of his hut to investigate. A strange object as large as an entire house appeared outside, emitting a brilliant light. This object then pulled Kang inside. The blinding light suddenly sucked the stonecutter up into the air. They tore his body apart, as if searching for something. Strange, the feeling was intensely painful yet there was no bleeding. They conversed among themselves in a language that sounded almost human, yet was completely impossible to understand. In his dreamlike state, Kang wandered into a paradise. There, the sun, the moon, and the stars all existed together. Everywhere was blanketed in a cold, crimson hue. Not a single house, village, or even the shadow of a tree remained. When he woke up, Kang realized he was still at the rocky shore. It wasn't until he returned home that he discovered more than a year had passed. The family had thought she had been devoured by a wild animal. Hearing of his return, many relatives and neighbors came to visit. On the person's chest, everyone could see a red mark resembling a stab wound, but when touched, there was no sensation of pain at all. Until Hua Kang was well past 13, his face remained exactly as it was the day he returned, untouched by time. This is perhaps the clearest historical record of a UFO abducting a person. In it, the time, place, and characters are all described in a detailed and thorough manner. Therefore, the idea that aliens need humans is quite accurate. Not merely a simple template, it is highly likely that in the past, they required an enormous quantity, such as the armies that royal dynasties once supplied. Kang had arrived in a land resembling a fairyland, most likely some other planet. Based on those descriptions, it can be seen that the living environment there is not as good as on our planet. If a single shade of red blankets everything, is that not the sign of calamity? Since the Song dynasty, it seems humanity has had almost no voice in negotiations with visitors from beyond Earth. They arrested people in a very arbitrary manner, no longer waiting for orderly arrangements as in the late imperial era. This can partly be explained by the constant fluctuations and ongoing development of the world throughout different periods. Later on, people could no longer make large numbers of individuals vanish without a trace as they had in the past. By the Qing dynasty, the scene of foreigners abducting people was even depicted by the renowned painter Wu Yoru in his works. Tik Diem Dang. The painting depicts an unidentified flying object, UFO, appearing before the artist's eyes, witnessed by hundreds of passers-by. At first, there were bound to be those who doubted this strange phenomenon. However, right there on the painting, the artist had very clearly recorded the exact time and date the event took place. At around 8 p.m. on September 28, an egg-shaped fireball suddenly appeared in the southern sky over Nanjing City. It was red in color but did not emit light. It drifted lazily across the sky, slowly moving eastward. The more overcast and gloomy the sky becomes, the more clearly objects can be seen. And on the Chuk Bridge, hundreds of people stood on tiptoe, straining to get a better look. It hovered there for a moment, then slowly faded away. Some people believe it was a shooting star streaking across the sky. But that bulge would immediately vanish. While this sphere moved from the moment it appeared in the sky until it vanished, it lasted nearly an hour. Therefore, this object cannot be a neutron star. Some say that at night, children release sky lanterns, and those lanterns drift suspended in the wind, floating northward. However, the flying sphere disappeared towards the east, so it definitely was not a sky lantern. Everyone has their own opinion, arguing loudly with no one willing to listen to anyone else. Speculation is also an obstacle. Finally, an elderly man spoke up. This object may look small, but it holds great value and conceals an inner beauty and refinement. The air was so still it felt suffocating, a silence so deep you could hear nothing at all. From the southern gate, it flew here. Sich diem dang kong. Back then, people had no concept of flying saucers or UFOs whatsoever. Go Who Knew certainly had no motive to fabricate such a story. In this painting, everything from the forms and lines to the annotations is incredibly vivid and refined. This is considered important evidence, as well as a valuable historical document on unidentified flying objects. At the turn of the 20th century and into the 21st century, reports of alien appearances in China became far less frequent. Most UFO sightings occur in the United States. It is thanks to the United States that UFOs and aliens have become mainstream and are seriously studied as a scientific topic today. But why this shift? Why did the outsider figure, once a frequent presence in China, become a prominent image in America? Could it be that they failed to recognize China has been a great civilization since ancient times, and also lacks sufficient capability to meet their demands? There are many ways to explain this. First and foremost, you should know that since the 20th century, China has become very resolute on the international stage. Even in today's age, they possess completely separate social media platforms and information systems. You will find it very difficult to obtain information about events happening in China, even if you are living there. On the contrary, these nations possess an extremely robust media foundation, coupled with a significantly higher degree of information freedom. Therefore, news of this extraordinary event would quickly spread, not only within the nation but throughout the entire world. In reality, UFO-related events have been documented in numerous countries, yet they haven't truly received much attention. However, it is undeniable that the United States later emerged as a nation with unparalleled influence over the rest of the world. Their communication with people outside of their relationship also became more obvious and frequent. Though its history spans only a few hundred years, that period has been sufficient for Americans to build a relatively impressive record of diplomacy with extraterrestrial forces. Returning to China, you may have already formed some idea of the long-standing and robust connections this land has maintained with foreigners throughout its history. Fundamentally, diplomatic efforts and exchanges of interests have always persisted, yet humanity consistently finds itself in a passive position. Nowadays, it is difficult to assert whether diplomacy remains an easy profession or not, but in my opinion, this world continues to be profoundly influenced by external forces. China is also developing robustly and gradually narrowing the gap with the United States in the space race. It is quite possible that in the future, it will be the extraterrestrial species who must consider and choose diplomatic channels to obtain what they need. The three-body problem. While watching this film, you'll realize that most diplomatic efforts with more advanced species are utterly meaningless. One must create their own strength, for balance can only be achieved when both sides are equally powerful. It took us over 90,000 years after our emergence to transition from hunting and gathering to agriculture and animal husbandry. It took another 200 years for the machinery manufacturing industry to develop. But just 50 years later, humanity had unlocked the power of the atom, and in the following 30 years, built an unparalleled foundation for information technology. At this rate of development, there is no reason why, within the next few hundred years, humanity cannot establish a position of equal footing for itself. At that time, space diplomacy will undergo a complete transformation. What are your thoughts on today's issue? Feel free to share your views in the comments section below. And now, hello everyone, and see you in the next videos. Wishing everyone a cool and pleasant day.